T1 play out the LeBlanc Lee Sin synergy better than any other team here in the LCK. And that would make sense. Faker is historically the greatest player to ever play LeBlanc. And this guy right here, the Rise that has now been banned away. Twisted Fate, going to be taken off the board as well. And the Ahri left up and should be available here if Faker would like to go there. But Jace is also very high priority pick. And we know Faker is happy to pick the Kai'Sa into the Ahri if it does get locked down.
Obviously, there is a number of picks available. The Gragas, most notably, has been rising in priority again. I am personally a great fan of the good old Malphite, but don't need to lock that in early. Expecting an Ahri picker at the very least, and then...
Ahri Volibear is what I'm expecting to be the cookie cutter response.
I was thinking Ahri Jinx, but it looks like indeed will be the Volibear here for Pioshik. And then main question becomes what is locked in with it. I honestly can make a case for either, although recently there's been more and more losses, even for Def's Jinx, as that pick has had its fair share of struggles. Volibear, really, especially with Xin Zhao completely dropping off the map, been more and more important. This is obviously a really strong 2v2. It picks away the Ahri from Faker as well, so I think this is a good opening for the draft and doesn't really lock DRX in any specific direction.
Yeah, T1 can now choose what they want to take into the Ahri if they would like to. Also grab Owner of Jungle is what I'm expecting. He did promise a Nidalee game, but we're going to have a different animal theme here, as potentially Sejuani going to be coming in. Very Freljordian would be the matchup, but it will be Viego in the end. And Faker, what is he going to lock away? Possibly a Jinx. Of course, Gumayusi has been extraordinarily consistent on the champion, although he did suffer that one loss, I believe, against Liv Sandbox on the pick.
Yeah. I would have loved to see a recreation of that opening cinematic from this year. Volibear against Sejuani would have been really, really cool. But we're not getting it. Viego obviously next in line in terms of prio picks that have been found, and T1, they're showing nothing.
You still could get your wish, you know? We could be flexing this Viego into support, going Nautilus jungle, Nautilus mid lane, sorry, and then the Sejuani could go into the jungle. So
I'd rather not.
Just have hope. Just have hope.
I'm not gonna lie, Atlas. I don't know if I'm on board with that. As, again, I personally would like to see a top lane counter pink here to try and punish the Jace. Alternatively, I was actually expecting them to lock in an AD carry here, but they are going to make sure that they have the often picked answer, or rather, depending on which team you ask, the main solution for whichever comp you run. Leona always works well. Into Nautilus, a matchup that we have seen countless times here, and that does mean that the mid lane pool can get reliably thinned out here. DRX could be able to then take away and expecting the Vex, but no!
I actually was expecting Kai'Sa Vex to be the bans, but I think that going with the LeBlanc ban against Faker makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, the LeBlanc ban is fine, and I get the idea, right? Playing into Kai'Sa Jace sounds like a horrible experience, but you do have a lot of early game pressure available to you, and the Vex ban, or the Vex pick rather, for T1 seems extremely likely here. Yeah, especially with a lot of the other AD carries now banned away. Not expecting Gumayusi to suddenly start dipping into mage territory. Something like the Ziggs obviously would be a main answer into the Phalios. We've seen Victor be successful when it was piloted by Ophelia. But I'm expecting probably Xayah here. Seems most likely. It's good into what DRX have drafted right now as well. Very short range. A lot of burst, but Xayah with the built-in safety should be a pretty comfortable option here.
Yep. Gumayusi with plenty of different options that he could go with as well. A bit of a smile on his face. I wonder whether that means that we're going to get something interesting, but no. Looks like it will be Aphelios versus Xayah. Of course, better for Aphelios as far as the range matchup is concerned, but Xayah has just been so incredibly safe, and if you've got Jace there to poke things out, you've also got now double lethality coming through from T1, so their mid-game damage spike when it comes to all that damage from the Jace and the Xayah will be very, very powerful. And no surprises that the Vex then gets a hover. She has been very, very popular into the Ahri, and we've seen her find a lot of success as well.
All right, Kingen, get that R5 Malphite in.
Yeah.
You know what to do.
I mean, that would be the dream.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the reality.
No, I know. honestly, if they end up going with the Camille, I do think that at the very least there is some actual punish potential, and this is all right. I'll take it. I do think combined with the hard engage that is available here, having a reliable way of taking the poke that's going to come through from T1 is quite strong, and once you get a couple of backs in, Kingen should be fine in that matchup, but I've seen Zayas really bully these Scions in the early stage of the laning phase to the point where you can't really recover, so going to require some careful piloting here on top side.
No, I would agree. I think that Sion is not really a response that we get too excited about into the Jace. There are certainly other large tanky champions that you could play in the top lane. Although even a Malphite does get bullied early against the Jace. But we shall see how this one's going to be piloted. A little bit more reliable, I guess, for setting things up in the later stages is the Sion. And can also get to lanes very effectively and things like that. The choo-choo train can never be understated. But T1, pretty standard drafting here. Certainly a lot of follow-up options and a lot of poke that they will have available to themselves. Not necessarily a Jinx Jace composition that we see really outrange and suffocate you out of position. But certainly will still work out in a similar way. Whereas DRX, a lot of pick and certainly a lot of front-to-back team fighting. Although the range is where we are going to get a little bit iffy.
That's the main issue for DRX here. Playing a hard engage, short range comp into Xayah can definitely backfire. But if they can get Kingen ahead, especially if Guma ends up going for the lethality build, then there is the opportunity to kind of mitigate a lot of the damage. But then we remember that one Ruler game where he got fed early, and we saw that Sion in that scenario didn't have the best of times. So if you can just get that play round 2, Guma, then you don't really have to worry at all.
Not sure whether he will anyway. As Deft here in the river, going to be teaming up with Beryl just to hold down the fort. Keria might be able to wave hello to the player that he deemed his biggest rival here in the LCK, actually saying that Beryl was the one closest to his skill level. At least that's how I read it. He said that Beryl was the best, but I don't think anyone's better than Keria. So I'm just going to go out of my way and say outside of Keria, Beryl is the best.
It's a good read, Atlas.
In his opinion.
Good read.
Because that's being too humble. If you've had a season like Keria has, then you're not allowed to be that humble. I just don't think it's not honest.
It's not a thing.
No, it's not allowed. As Ona comes over, and we'll start on his red buff. They are going to look for some vision here as Sweeper comes out, but they get the bad news. There's no experience to be gained from that ward.
And Deft and Beryl going to be able to get themselves early control of the lane here as a slight leash is given over to Ona. And looking at the jungle pathing here, we have, unsurprisingly, Pioshik pathing away from Kingen. The Sion is expected to just do his thing, even if he dies generally with his passive. We'll be able to pick up the wave.
Yep, lane state not going to be as much of an issue.
Yeah, we'll be able to at least, if he gets those, get as much of the experience, and then again on subsequent backs it becomes a lot better as.
Okay, our first amazing carrier stat to come through here, 80% on the Nautilus thus far. This team is 18-0. A lot of the stats for a lot of these champions are very high.
Atlas, don't give away the script. Come on.
Oh, sorry.
17.
We're not in the future yet. Okay, sorry. 17-0. 17-0. Take it all back. Beryl, 76.7, of course, his most famous pick. This is a champion that he does have a skin on. He never uses it because he really likes this one instead, as Keria is going to land the hook onto Deft, his former teammate, but now Faker gets a very nice spear. And that is going to stop any sort of aggression from Pioshik. And Leona's been doing pretty good, as you can see.
Yeah, this harkens back to... Oh, Beryl.
Yeah, really wanted to get that cannon and does manage to get it.
It's fine. I remember when Leona was on like, what, a 7-game loss streak? Both Leona and Jinx have just been kind of yo-yo.
And Nautilus as well. I feel like Nautilus has gone from either winning everything and being like the most important to like losing everything. And that was like the beginning of the season. If you remember, it's like, oh, Effort can only play Nautilus. This is all terrible. And even then, he lost back-to-back games on the champion. We were like, oh no, this is not even real. But then, Nautilus becomes extraordinarily high value. Of course, Hoyt finding a lot of success there. And then everybody else starting to pick it up as Beryl stands in the way. And that is beautifully done by the DRX support to make sure that Deft doesn't have to blow a summon.
And you see some things going down towards top side. So owner, maybe look, get some deep vision as well, so they will be able to track Pioshik a little bit better. As now Pioshik will go and get his back off. Faker continues shoving in the wave here, and once he does back, should be able to. If he wants to, can choose to hold his teleport here, but might look to play it safe and maybe maintain some more pressure on that mid lane. Regardless, as Kingen, you know, he's cookied up. He's just sitting there, trying to take as little poke as possible.
Yeah, Pioshik making his way up towards the top side.
Okay.
Not necessarily the place that we thought he was going to be ganking, so he is just going to take his Krug camp. And there is vision in the area as well. He swept it out, but it does give T1 all the information they would require. Both junglers at exactly the same point right now. Faker moves his way back into this lane. Well, Deception not going to find too much. Decent electrocute procs going on both sides of this one. As Faker just trying to get as much damage onto the Ahri as possible, and will be able to land that last Q, thus winning the trade.
And as we see, Faker did end up opting for the teleport here to not give Zach an opportunity to get the shove, maybe get some damage in on the turret. As looking at what we might expect our first fight around, barring any 2v2 or 3v3 plays, should be, as per usual, that Rift Herald in about 3 minutes. And then the scenario is pretty interesting because I think a lot of it is going to depend on whether the bot laners are going to have level 6 already. We've seen bot lanes in the past be able to soak off of the mid wave and then hit those crucial ultimates, depth charge, solar flare, obviously, both very, very impactful. And Kingen, the longer, honestly, you hold out, the better, right? You want to try and delay your back as long as possible. If you can get your plate steel caps and maybe get a Barmies or something. We've seen a lot more Warden's Meals being picked up early as well.
Yeah, we have.
Very, very valuable item. As we'll be able to do Warden's Meal here, also picking up a refillable for himself. So really, as you'd expect for the sign in this matchup. But Zeus, as we pointed out previously, huge CS lead and picks up a first plate as well.
Yeah.
DRX happy, they get the Drake at least.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, T1 give up the Drake. They've been giving up Drakes all season long. They don't really care about those. They want to get themselves early advantages. They like to use Heralds in order to do so. And if they can't do that, they'll just take your turrets. This is a team that's very good at trading up around the map. And often, that involves giving away any pressure on an early Drake because it doesn't give you that much early power whatsoever. Next Drake will be the Hextech. We'll see whether they do fight over that one. And of course, we do have, as I'm very happy about, the chance of a Cloud Soul. Just like cloudy weather.
You do? Yeah. It's been getting nicer though here in Seoul.
It has. It's starting to warm up. Not having to wear the big old jackets anymore.
No.
King, that was a bit weird. Kind of bending the minion there just for a moment. He's down in farm, but he's a Scion. Doesn't really care about it too much. And you can tell, because we're looking at top lane, that not a whole lot else is going on around the rest of this map, as it's just trading a farm here on the bottom side, Deft with a battle wave in advantage. But it was a really good first back here from Guma, who did manage to pick up his Serrated Dirk as well as the tier. So in pretty good stead for holding on to a bit of power in this lane as they shove it forward and look to get a little bit of extra controls. Zeker as well has made sure that Faker is dealing with minions as often as possible. Also, support space for Pioshik, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing which version of Pioshik we have got today. Because if he's on, it's going to be a very scary situation for T1. And if he's not, it should be that 18-0 that we were expecting. There's area, hook. Opportunities there, and Owner is down here as well. Immediately the flash comes out as the Heartbreaker comes on in there. Good heal from Deft. Keeps Beryl alive. And Owner will make his way out. They collect themselves a flash and a heal, though, from the bottom lane. Should be enough to come back and capitalize on.
Oh, yeah. Pioshik just gets spotted there in his way over, and Owner skipping his Raptor camp there to instead sit in the bot lane for a little bit. As the wave pushes back, they're able to get those summoners. And Beryl also not going for the Hex Flash here, which we have seen at times.
Yeah.
And I do think especially that heal might end up being relevant. The flash being off or not available for Beryl is mostly diminishing the engage potential for DRX, right? Less offensive gameplay, but T1 themselves might want to go as all Deft.
Yeah, taking a lot of damage. Moonlight Vigil comes down. The depth charge is there as Carrier's going to fight Deft. He will die for it. But still, that's an extra assist, and you'll say it's worth if you're T1 because you got a bit of extra gold.
Key thing also is that entire wave is going into the turret here. Deft, of course, going to be happy that he gets that kill, but I wonder what the counter trade is going to be here for DRX. Kingen has actually been able to shove a big wave in, so contest here might be a little bit hard. CERCA making his way over, but Owner waiting in the mist.
Yes, indeed. Kingen's going to be able to rotate up, Zeker as well, and Beryl is going to get here at the same time, so T1 intelligently just going to give this one up. Deft also rotating over. So DRX now with a bit of money theoretically in the bank, but Gumushi went back. He got himself a Vampiric Scepter, and the bottom lane, as per usual for T1, going extraordinarily well. Okay, we'll move on over. Just spend some of his stacks here on Faker in the mid lane. And some possible scuffles now potentially to occur.
Scuffle for Scuttle, but no, Deft just picks that one up. And all things considered, the timing on that play for Herald was actually quite nice from DRX, recognizing that without Carrier it will be really hard for T1 to actually contest. Again, Deft missing a fair amount of CS, but because that kill went to him, or to Carrier rather, as opposed to Gumayushi, still leading to a slight gold lead. And now if Pioshi can find a successful play here, and that's be a counter gank. Owner also waiting in the general vicinity.
Yeah, we'll see if either of these junglers is going to pull the trigger as Carrier moving into position pretty aggressively. And it's going to be a Gromp that Pioshik's looking for. Sweeper. Not quite there for Carrier right now. But it is there for Owner. It will come over, clear out that ward. Carrier also doing the same thing to the control ward. Things going dark for DRX. So they wait underneath that turret. This plate yet to go down just yet.
When we see some hovering, but yeah, I don't think they'll really want to take the risk here as Kingen, again, he's not having the best of times, but he's Scion, so he's also not having the worst of times.
Yeah, no,
Just
not
having a time.
He is having a time. He is Scioning at the top side of the map. That is all that can really be said. As we're going to have a look at this play one more time. Gumayushi just identifying that Featherstorm pretty powerful.
Really, really nicely done, and the fact that Carrier actually hits that hook is ludicrous.
Yeah, the very last second, I believe it was a cancel of the auto attack. Unfortunate, meant that he wasn't capable of getting out, although I don't know whether he would have got out anyway. Still, very, very close. T1 looking for the second Drake of the game, and with all of their bot side control, they will be able to collect it. We'll have to have a look at what the soul is going to be in this game after that one goes down, and it will be
Happy Atlas.
There we go. That's what I'm talking about.
First one today, right?
Uh-huh.
Ah, yeah,
Glad
there's always one.
Glad we finally get a relevant Drake, know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know your stances on this, and I prefer not to get into it. I don't want to fight in front of the audience.
Yeah, that's
You know, we've been having this discussion so many
we'll wait
times.
until between the games, and we'll have it out.
Barrel
we'll
mid.
let them know how it goes. Zeka looking for a potential charm. Does not get it. Will be a few plates to go down here, though. Zeka gets the first one, and Shelly will be able to gift him a couple more. As you can see, making sure that he stays in range, and he will be able to collect that money. Owner comes on over, and Pioshik spots out exactly what's going on here. And an easy smite there, 4 health on the red buff. So Owner a little bit early on that one. Does mean that the Volley Bear able to get value for his control ward.
And DRX thus far matching very well, but this is kind of the mystery of T1, right? Is that despite
where
all
does
of this
the money
happening,
come from?
Yes. Despite all of this happening, they're still up in gold. And of course, a lot of this is plate gold, even with the plates going down.
Kingen?
Yeah.
Getting real aggressive.
Hey, that's at spellbook value.
Love
Remember
it.
On?
Just light him on fire. Just walk up to them, light him on fire.
But as we were saying, a lot of it, I do think, is the plates that have gone down, both one in top, 2 in bot side, but also the coal, right? That's been picked up as...
Solar Flare comes down. That is going to be the cleanse used. Featherstorm's out as well as Moonlight Vigil comes down. Deft trying to find some revenge onto Carrier. Now Pioshik at level 8 does have his ulti available. And there's also an Ahri coming down at the same time. Owner is here, a big teleport as the train has left the station, but Deft might be dead before it happens. Good stun comes through. The stun is there from the Scion in response, and the Viego falls. The timing of this Scion That would have been Def dead and maybe a one-team fight if he wasn't able to come down and get it in the nick of time.
Oh, and you could feel Faker looking for the Shadow Surge. Doesn't actually find it, but crucially, yeah, you got the kill on Deft. That's nice. But look at your top lane turret.
Yeah. So this is
look at it.
It's a trade that's not going in favor of DRX after they got a trade in favor of DRX.
Initially it was, but no. As time has continued, Zeus has not left his lane. He's like, oh man, free call, free plates.
It's the problem of every team facing T1. It's like you have to invest so much, and often it's just not worth it because the punish is always there.
I do honestly think that Def would have died if not for King.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Train arriving just in time, but with, no train on top. Zeus, I'd like to see the gold lead in a little bit because I am pretty sure that he was monstrously fed.
Yes.
And we have seen in the past that T1 is able to utilize a fed chase better than anyone in the LCK at the moment.
Let's have a look at that gold.
There we go. Yeah.
It's 1,200. It's not exactly like end-of-the-world margins, given the fact that Kingen was able to come down there and help grab some kills.
Yeah.
But it's still
not
pretty
good.
massive.
It's, oh, yeah, there's more. Okay, well, he just killed the entire wave. That's good. Okay. I think he finished his call as well. There we go. That's the gold spike.
Yeah, that's the gold. That's the.
Yeah.
So now it's actually that's too much. 1,200.
Okay.
1,700. Not so good.
No.
As Zek. All right. Just had to deal with Carrier Hex Splashing. Sometimes you get Hex Splash.
But I don't think Carrier. You know, I don't think he crossed the wall he was looking to cross. Crucially.
I don't think that we're allowed to doubt.
We're not?
No. Like, you just have to assume that everything's
that was
on
the plan.
purpose. Yeah. Our meager brains are not enough to comprehend what Carrier is trying to do.
And many a game has been lost over Second Herald, and surely getting hotly contested here as well, but this time around, King doesn't have TP, so I think you have to let this one go.
Kyoshik does have his ulti at the ready, as good sidestep from the Volley Bear. Turns on the Sirens, and they are going to be able to make their way out, but T1 just walk up, grab themselves a Rift Herald, and they will just walk their way out as well. No rush in this game. I think T1 very happy to scale, even though there is sort of that classic front-to-back style of team fighting composition. T1 have a lot of tools to get work done in the late game. Shirley will come through. The train is going to be utilized just to block a depth charge, and King is going to punch Shirley in the face.
All right, so we have two monstrously fat members. We have Deft on one hand, as he now picks up solo turret gold as well, and then we have Zeus on the other as they go in.
Great hook. That's the Shadow Surge as well. As the Solar Flare goes down, Kingen will die as Ona's going to pick up the first reset. Turns into a Scion as well, which is pretty scary. Now looking to chase after them. There are two Scions.
Two Scions?
What a nutty time to be alive. As Ona's going to Heartbreaker, and that's going to disable one of the Scions. The other Scion will die. And WTF, two Scions. Very cool.
As it turns out, not having your AD carry when you're team fighting is a bad thing.
Yeah, I would put that in the cons column.
Yeah, I think you should. As I was getting into when Carrier found that hook in mid, we are currently looking at a T1 that has a Zeus that is monstrously accelerated. Obviously, already a big menace, and if you get Cyrilda's Grudge like very, very far ahead of your normal curve, then it becomes a really big problem around any possible teamfight setup. But again, this is a 4v5, right? So the posturing here from DRX is an incredible risk that they don't really need to take. I understand that you want to get prio for Drake, but if Deft is shoving top, you're not getting prio, and you're not getting Drake. So trying to bite off a little bit more than they can chew, which generally against T1 is a recipe for disaster.
And it was a recipe for a 2.5k gold lead here at T1. Now that they've also picked up the Dragon at the same time, things looking great, cruising towards a potential soul point in the next 4 minutes. Kimushi holding the fort here in the mid lane, and he does have Featherstorm available as well as Cleanse and Flash. And doesn't have to use very much right now. Featherstorm does come out, as now Beryl, trying to get out of here, has to flash the Shadow Surge, otherwise Faker was coming. Depth charge comes down, and that means Ona is going to help secure the kill onto the Leona. And Kyoshik dies pretty much as an afterthought as he was caught in the way. Once again, bit of no man's land here for DRX.
And T1 strike like a Viper, right? Like, you think you're fine. You just want to force Gumayushi's Featherstorm to set yourself up for a possible play around an objective. and then 2 of your people die. And you're
Yeah.
like, wait, what? Hold up. What just happened? And
now the gold lead is ever extended, right? Like, this is the time in the game that T1 have so often just taken absolute control just by being better, just by knowing where to be.
So against a lot of other teams, right, like maybe you get away with this, but this is exactly the same scenario as last time. Well, one member is just too far off, and if you're posturing that far up against many another team, okay, you get Featherstorm, that's the end of it, and then you just walk it off, and then you're fine. But against T1, they're going in. They don't care.
Yeah.
They have the utmost confidence in themselves to win these fights, and now Zeus, but they're gonna Last Whisper as well.
The crazy thing is, right, is it turned it from DRX getting a Featherstorm, which is great, to Beryl not having Solar Flare, which was not great, right? And it's T1 turning what should theoretically be a good moment for DRX, but then them just capitalizing on what needed to be invested in order to get what they wanted. Just didn't quite work out, and DRX now sort of pottering about here in their own jungle, looking to clear out vision where they can. 10 seconds until the Baron is available. I don't think either team is going to be going for one too early. As you can see, Zeus on the bottom side. Kingen does have his smite at the ready from his unsealed spellbook. As Carrier off to the side, will find a hook here onto the Leona. The Eclipse is there, but he's not as tanky as he wants to be right now, and that is just free. And there's no response from DRX.
Every engaged carrier as owner, it's actually the one throwing out a Xenoblade.
Yeah.
Every engaged carrier goes for is a good one. That's just the problem, and that's something that no team has really been able to deal with. Literally, they're 17-0, and as I say, that carrier goes in.
I mean, it was a good attempted engage.
It still was, and like even with...
It's a zoning hook. That was a zoning.
Well, you get the turret, so
see?
It worked!
Yeah, gets a flash for that one as well. Q goes wide from Faker, but Deft having to flash.
Oh.
Absolutely massive, and T1 are just putting on way too much pressure, and DRX look like they're drowning right now.
Again, I'd like to refer back, as we saw in Champ Select, the Cyan is a pick that into the Jace, you'll skill a little, but you bleed so much. And then with the teleport towards bot side as well, I think that might actually end up being, even though it was like what feels like a relatively tiny play 5-10 minutes ago, might end up being the biggest difference maker here, right? Because like Zeus is so incredibly fed, and even without Zeus, they would be able to get through the health loss, right? Cyan is not that big yet. We do see that T1 has been segmenting off people, killing them one by one, and that is something that's going to remain a problem. But crucially, again, Zeus is going to hit his third item spike in about, I want to say, 3-4 minutes. Like, you need to force fights as DRX from that point on, because if you just sit around, you're going to lose your entire health bars.
Well, that item spike is being hit right now as he's teleporting in. Kingen trying to get himself out of here as owner on the flank. It's a decent stun, but it's on to Beryl as Faker finds the Shadow Surge. Goshik now has to get the hell out of here as Beryl doing the same thing. Decent defensive Solar Flare. As T1 not able to lock anyone down in this skirmish, but do assert their dominance.
Who cares? That's a Drake. You don't actually need to kill anyone. You can pick up all the objectives you want. You can take control of that bot side, and T1.
Yeah, they're pretty good at this.
There's
game,
a
aren't they?
that 17-0 is there for a reason, you know? And it's like, you were looking at it, like, yeah, that makes sense. I get it. I get it. Yeah, fair enough.
Soul point for the best Dragon Soul in the game, as Deft and Zeka in the back of this Baron pit will immediately get spotted by Carrier. Man, it's fun police right here. We thought we were going to get like a cute little Baron attempt.
No.
No. Carrier's brain is too large. Kingen now on defensive duty, but half of this turret goes down in 1 W from range form Jace. And yes, it's very quickly going from bad to worse here for DRX as we have a look at this one more time. And Carrier just has to think about it for a moment and then decides, oh yeah, Beryl, you're dead.
This is something that you see with DRX, and the hesitation there. It looks a little bit silly, but it's understandable because as DRX, like, okay, what do we do? Do we go in? Do we go out? You know, there's comms. Beryl probably saying, back off, because I'm just going to die here. But those moments of hesitation, like T1 just doesn't have. And if you have those moments of hesitation, you're getting punished. If you don't do anything, you get punished. Guess what? You do too much,
you get punished.
You get punished, yeah. You don't contest an objective,
You exist
punished.
on Summoner's Rift against T1. I think you get punished.
Well, that's basically what's happening.
Yeah, no, it is. There just doesn't seem to be any options for DRX. It's the true mark of a great team, right? Is to be able to make sure that your opposition only has bad choices to make after you claim any control over the game. And T1, it was a lot of little things in the early game that really did end up cascading into DRX now having a group mid, try and get control here desperately. Looking for an outer turret as Featherstorm is going to be there to answer. The Blade Caller fantastic as Everfrost keeps Kingen in place. He is going to try and drive his way out. Really decent drifting as Carrier gets over the wall and knocks everyone into the sky. Zayas picks up the kill onto Beryl as well as Faker finds some resets. He will go golden just to make sure that there's no follow-up option as Owner turns into depth and will get himself out of there. Oh, nice little pick up there from Zeka with the vision that they had available. But that is just a little bit of a consolation prize here for DRX as Pioshik in this brush wants to try and trade, but he's not going to be able to. He just gets a little bit frightened and then Faker will finish him off with an Everfrost.
What do you do? What do you do? I hope we get a replay of that fight because I want to draw your attention to Zayas' Shock Blast. Might I remind you, on the front line, in quotation marks, of DRX.
Yeah,
Because, again, DRX tries to set up this fight, but unfortunately for them, there are plenty of summoners available here. Guma immediately able to make his way out. Yeah, you saw that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, that's Pioshik and Beryl. Yeah, and then from that point onward, like, obviously the chase potential for this T1 comp is ludicrous. Even if the hard engage initially doesn't force out the full 5v5, with Carrier's immaculate engage, it doesn't really matter, right? Yeah. Nice pick off.
Whoosh!
That was, of course, when he was trying to ult over the wall, and unfortunately for him, Zeka had vision.
He knew.
And hit him with the Q. Very cute. Hook is going to connect here onto Pioshik, who does not have his ulti available, so doesn't have an easy way out, but just walking with the fact that the rest of his team was turning up was enough of an answer here. As DRX now find themselves with an 8,000 gold deficit. Like, Charm is going to land as Carry is going to get punished for a moment. That is going to be the kill secured. I thought maybe there'd be some way for him to make it out because I started to just believe that T1 can't do anything wrong in this game, but that was a good pick-off. And DRX going to find some value here. Let's see what they're going to be able to get. As vision around this Baron pit is definitely paramount. 1 minute on the Drake as well as, yeah, Pioshik, I don't know what this was about, but it didn't work. Owner secures that kill.
This is the problem, like, the idea behind the dive makes sense, right? Because the turret is almost down. Okay,
Heartbreaker
again?
Yeah, just dives on forward as Owner takes a lot of damage. Okay, Faker now off to the side, wanting to line up a potential Shadow Surge, but I'll let you have your point. Yeah, I did like it. I felt like Pioshik was maybe there a little early.
No, but the point is, like, I think that play from Pioshik, again, against a lot of team works. As, okay, carry out face checks, brush, dies. Don't want to go into this too much. Yep. Like you said, I was waiting for the punish to happen, but crucially, because the turret is this low, a lesser team would overextend into this and just possibly lose the game. But T1 already know that this is going to happen, right? They read the play so well, and I think as Pioshik, you have to go for plays like that. Maybe not specifically that one, but like that's the kind of desperation, that's the kind of force and punish that you need to look for. At this point in the game, you need to go for a 10% play in the hope that it works. But T1, like, yeah, we know that's one play, and this is it, and no, not allowed, not happening.
Well, now they're going to run real quick because Cloud Soul will come in for them. Owner is down there securing it as the Baron has been started. Okay, DRX, let's see whether you can actually secure it.
Oh?
Well, they're doing it relatively slowly.
Slow.
Yeah.
I think they're going to get it, but die immediately afterwards.
Well, Zeka is going to rotate over, gets the bad news that there are a lot of people here, and the Baron is still very healthy.
Oh, not happening.
Pioshik also not very tanky, as Zay is going to get rid of Kingen from this area. The full reset going to come through, and Kingen, I think, is just going to die. No train as an option, and that is going to be T1's prize for catching out that Baron. Unfortunately, for DRX, they just didn't have enough damage. Depth charge to come through here as Beryl looking to try and keep his 80 carry alive. Shadow Surge going to be avoided there by Deft. And now Faker still looking to try and claim the life of the Aphelios, and Def wondering what the heck his options are, as he is going to be able to sidestep using the dead turret as Moonlight Vigil comes down, but he is still very, very dead. Gumayusi in the meantime trying to come through and tidy that one up. Double kill for Zeus. This Jace unleashed and unstoppable. 10,000 gold the lead, 14-4 in kills. They've got a Cloud Soul as well, which in my opinion is absolutely fantastic. In other people's opinions, not necessarily so much, but they'll also be able to break open the base.
T1 just too good, Atlas. I don't know what to tell you. DRX had some good moments, but even the plays that on paper looked like they worked out for them, but then immediately met by a gold lead for T1.
It's nuts. The Scion is also really dead right now, as Ona turns into him, has a bit of fun there. He's going to go down relatively low, but the Nexus turrets are going to do exactly the same thing. Solar Flare from Beryl, but Ona, of course, has himself a stopwatch, so he's not dying. He's going to flash, grab one last kill, and T1 are one step away from plus 29 and the 18-0 perfect split. For the first time ever in LCK history, we could have a team that has not lost a single match in an entire season.